Okay, we're back. So we do Netivot Shalom Sefer Shmot Parashat Kitisa, or as you say here, Kisisa. So the main thing of the parsha, which we're still paying today, is the breaking of the luchot, right? The sin of the golden calf. Moshe goes to Har Sinai. They miscalculating Boshesh Lavo, which means 6. They were wrong with the calculation. The Erev Rav was murdering Hur. Aaron was afraid. He told them to bring their gold. They made the golden calf actually turn out by itself. Micha put the Shema Meforash in the golden calf mouth. Then he started to say, I'm your God. And then Aaron told them, tomorrow we're going to have a celebration. And then Moshe got the message from Hashem that his people sin. Basically, Hashem is telling him, the Erev Rav, that you didn't ask me if to bring them or not. You decide by yourself. You thought that it would be good for them to cleave to the Shekhinah, but it was your call, and look what they have done. And Moshe goes down and he breaks the luchot, right? So later on it says, Ki al pi advarim haele karati etcha brit. So Moshe asked for forgiveness. Hashem forgave us with the condition, many conditions, right? It was not like a full forgiveness because we're still paying for that. So now there is a covenant. ויאמר השם אל משה, כתוב לך את הדברים האלה, write these words, because accordingly I'm going to have a covenant with you, right? כי על פי הדברים האלה קראתי איתך ברית ואת ישראל. I have a covenant with you, with Israel. And it says in מדרש תנחומה, in פרשת נוח, he said, לא קראת הקדוש ברוך הוא ברית עם ישראל, אלא על התורה שבעל פה. That Hashem covenant with us is about the oral Bible. שנאמר על פי הדברים, הדברים it's דיבורים, it's talking. קראתי איתך ברית. Right? Not the Torah שבכתב, not the written Bible. And our sages said, לא כתב הקדוש ברוך בתורה למען הדברים האלה, אלא על פי הדברים. So Hashem didn't write in the Torah for these things, but according to these things. על פי הדברים. And this is the Torah שבעל פה, it's the oral Bible, which is very tough, very difficult to learn, and there is a sorrow and lack of sleep. ויש מבלה ומנבל עצמו עליה, and people getting wear and tear from learning the Torah שבעל פה. שאין לומד אותה, so only a person that love Hashem with all his heart and his soul will learn it. You know what I'm talking about? Which learning?
Mishnah and Gemara.
Exactly. ולכן כריתת הברית, and therefore the covenant is on the Torah שבעל פה, the oral, Mishnah Gemara. So basically at that time, they didn't learn Gemara, right? They were learning the halachot. They didn't even learn Mishnah because didn't exist at the time, right? The Mishnah and the Gemara basically are a repetition, not necessarily accurate, an interpretation of what they were learning. And it was much more difficult than what we're learning today. Today, I'm saying you have Gemara with diagram, with sketches, with everything that will enable us to understand. But at the time, they were learning it by heart. Right? So that's the covenant on the Torah שבעל פה. והנה, but here we find, in the end of the Parashat Mishpatim, נאמר, it says, ויכתוב משה את כל דברי השם, right? That Moshe wrote all the words of Hashem, ויקח ספר הברית, and he took the book of the covenant, and he was reading to the people. And Rashi explained in the name of the Mechilta, that parsha of Mishpatim were actually before receiving the Torah. ופירוש, right? And what does it mean? ויכתוב משה את כל דברי השם, which means Moshe wrote all the things that happened from Bereshit until the time of receiving the Torah. So according to that, we found שעל התורה שבכתב עד מתן תורה, נאמר גם כן ספר, so the Torah that was written was said the book of the covenant. So how is it reconciling with the Tanhuma, which says that the covenant was only on the oral Bible? But here we find that the book of the covenant is also the written Torah. And in the Ramban, he says that שהיות ולאחר כריתת הברית הראשונה קודם מתן תורה, חתרו ישראל בחטא. So the first covenant that we had, before receiving the Torah, the Bnei Israel, right, and the Erev Rav were having the sin of the golden calf, and they're like transgressed, violated the covenant. So they need to have another covenant, renewing the covenant, which is the Brit HaMechudeshet, that was on the oral Bible. So it's like, just to understand the chronological thing, Moshe wrote everything that happened before Matan Torah, from Bereshit until Matan Torah. That was the first covenant. And then he went up to the mountain to receive the Torah. He came down. We didn't receive it yet because he broke the Luchot. So the first covenant, nullified. So now Moshe is begging for forgiveness. He's going back again for another 40 days, right? 40 days, forgive 40 days again. And then he brings the Torah, which is the oral Torah now. And that's the second covenant. And we can say that these two covenants have two meanings. Yesh brit bepnimiyut, right? There is like an internal covenant. The same way, and bring here the story from David and Yonatan, from Sefer Shmuel, V'ichrot Yonatan v'David brit. So Yonatan and David, right? Jonathan and David have a covenant with their love. They love each other like a soul, how do you know, say, soulmate love, which is an inner covenant with the souls. And there was another type of covenant, according to what it says in Avraham and Avimelech, right? So Avimelech took Sarah, right? The second time that Sarah was taken by a king, Avimelech. And then after that, she conceived Yitzchak, etc. But after everything was revealed that Sarah is actually Abraham's wife, then Avimelech was really afraid, and he had the covenant with Avram. And that covenant was like an external covenant. For example, Avimelech was really concerned, and he said, and please, not please, he said, okay, we'll have a covenant, so after you and I will die, like, your people will not harm my grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. That was an external covenant. So there is an internal and external. And according to the light of that, there is another covenant, which is Shabbat Kodesh, Shabbos, right? And it says, ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, right? It's a covenant, it's an infinite covenant. ביני ובבני ישראל אותי לעולם. We're saying it every Shabbat, we say. It's a covenant. We're actually repeating that it's a covenant, an infinite covenant between Hashem and Bnei Israel. And the Shabbos is actually an internal, an inner covenant of love between us and Hashem. As it says in the Holy Book, Bnei Sachar, in the name of the Rav HaKadosh Mezito Jov, that the Shabbat numerical value in Gematria, right? Shabbat, Ahava bechol lev, Ahava bechol nefesh, Ahava bechol mod. It's like love with your heart, love with the soul, love with all your being. This is the numerical value, which is Shabbat. What does it mean? That when we are waking up in Shabbat with loving Hashem with all our hearts, or loving the Shabbat with all our hearts, it is like we're having another covenant again and again, like we are repeating the covenant with the Shabbat Kodesh. But if we don't have such kind of an internal spiritual love, then it could be maybe an external covenant, So how can I give a good analogy? Maybe like in a politics, that you have a covenant with another country, a secret one that nobody knows, and you say, you support me, I support you, no matter what. That's the internal covenant. Nobody knows. But the external covenant, it's like if you see that I have a threat, you're going to bring your tanks close to my border just to make sure that the other side will know that I have your support. That's external. Or it doesn't bring anything, but if there will be a war, suddenly they will protect the other country. I mean, I think maybe it's an okay analogy. And the same way is the covenant with the Torah. That the Kritat HaBrit HaRishona, before Matan Torah, so the first covenant before receiving the Torah, it was not strong one internally. And therefore they transgressed, they violated it. But the new covenant, or the renewed one, was an internal one. According to these words, I have the covenant with you, which is the Torah שבעל פה, which שאין לומד אותה או מתייגע עליה, אלא מי that only the one that really love Hashem and care about Hashem is putting lots of effort and learning the oral Bible with all his being and all his heart, etc. בליבו ונפשו ומאודו, in the heart, in the soul, and in his being. And the love in these three things is a perfection, a perfect love. Right? The same way that was on the Shabbat, which is it's said about the Shabbat, that also the Shabbat things is ahava bechol lev nefesh meod, which is a level in a covenant, in an inner covenant. And he said in the two britot, the two covenants that we have, Brit Shabbat to Brit Torah, right? So we have a covenant with Shabbat and covenant with the Torah. They were said in that meaning that we should have an internal covenant that all our love will be giving to Hashem. And a Jew that is putting an effort in the Torah and he's really sweating and learning, because it's really difficult. Bottom line, learning Gemara is very difficult. So besides the effort that he puts in the Torah, there is another special level, which is actually when he's learning the Torah, it's like having the covenant with the Torah, because he's giving his love to Hashem in all his being, because really learning oral Bible, it's very difficult. So it's a manifestation of the person love to Hashem, because he loved the Torah, and even though he suffered from it, he's still loving it, and he's learning it. Like the Midrash Tanchum, I said that Torah she'ba'al peh yesh tzar gadol. There is a great sorrow in learning the Torah, and there is a lots of wear and tear. But by having that and doing that is actually fulfilling the covenant with the Torah, right? If it would be easy, then what's the point? And including in our sages in Masechet Kiddushin, it says, Barati yetzer hara, barati lo Torah tavlin. I created, Hashem is saying, like I created the evil inclination, but I created the antidote, which is the Torah. As it says in the Holy Book, that the spice or the antidote of the Torah against the yetzer hara, it's only when he's actually learning Torah with fire, like with effort. You know, I'm not saying it to you, I'm saying it for myself, really. But going to Shurim, like, you know, like great rabbanim that inspiring you, or looking at, you know, at Shurim in YouTube and all of these things, it's very good, but it's not putting in effort. You just sit and you listen, and the proof for that is that 10 minutes after or a day after, somebody will ask you what was the shiur about. You say that was a great shiur, but I just don't remember what was it about. Why? You didn't put an effort. Easy come, easy go. You could get an inspiration, but only learning Gemara really, and the best is like with one chavruta, not just to listen, but to read. Read by yourself, read to your chavruta, try to explain. He read, he explain. You read Rashi. That's difficult, and really to understand like what's going on, really good, looking deep into it, that's an effort. And then there is a chance to remember. And that's a manifestation of the love and the covenant that we have. So the antidote to the evil inclination is the Torah, but only when he's really learning it seriously. And here he said, I wish we were going to be in that level, that only when he's learned Torah in fire. So the same way the evil inclination is burning in the person like a fire, so that's the tikkun, the fixing of it, is to be learning Torah like burning in the fire. And really going deep into it, amkut, in all his being and all his desires, etc., etc. And that's the fixing for the evil inclination. And that's the meaning, really, of the covenant of the Torah. ומרן אדמו"ר, ועד שיחותו הגענו אמר, שיהודי צריך לקבוע לו בכל יום שיעור בתכלית, so said the Jew have to schedule a shiur every day, but in iyun, and he should invest in that hour all his thought and thinking and everything, like to have the Torah even as an intellectual challenge, really to understand. And that's the Gemara. And then it will be the same context of Tefillah, like going to the mikveh. So the same way the mikveh purifying a person externally, because basically it's pure water that makes our body pure on a technical level. So the same way you have an internal purification, which is like dipping your brain in the Torah. And really learning Gemara for 1 hour, after 1 hour, you feel like very tired. You feel like, whoof, my head, if you're really going deep into it. So learning Torah in such a way, it will purify a brain person, which was metame by bad thought. So when he learned Torah with love and investing his brain and everything in the Torah, it is like he's going to the brain mikveh to purify the brain on a spiritual level. And it says, right? So it says Brit Torah or Brit Shabbat. So there are two covenants, the covenant of Torah and the covenant of Shabbat. So learning Torah with effort and keeping Shabbat with pleasure. And their theme is love bechol lev, ahava bechol nefesh, v'ahava bechol meod. Love with your heart, with your soul, and your being. That a Jew will give it to Hashem. And that's like very important to understand, because it came after the sin of the golden calf. So the first covenant was on the Torah that Moshe wrote between Bereshit until Matan Torah. He went up to the mountain, broke the Luchot because of the sin. And now Hashem said, okay, let's have a new covenant. But now, and I'm adding it now, and I think that now Hashem is telling us, like, we have a trust issue. I don't trust you anymore. Trust is something that you build. So now let's have a covenant on the Torah Shebal Peh, which is very difficult to learn. And now I want to see you keeping the covenant. If you keep the covenant, which means learning the Torah, which is very difficult, and keeping the Shabbos, then I can trust you again. And I think that's the most important things why Hashem renewed the covenant in this way. Shkoyach.